Your daughter is a thief, Obina. I have the proof.
A thief? That's impossible.
The night Abena came home from his long journey, his wife met him at the gate with red eyes and said, "Your daughter is a thief, Abena. I have the proof." He stood there with a bag of gifts in his hand, and his tired smile still half on his face, not yet understanding that he had just walked into something that had been carefully built and waiting for him the whole time he was away. Abena was a good man. He worked hard, he loved his daughter, and after his wife Kioma died from a fever 3 years before, he had carried both her absence and the weight of the whole house on his own 2 shoulders without complaint. He farmed. He traded in the big market 2 villages away. He cooked for a doggo when he could, and when he could not, the neighbors helped. The village of Umus was that kind of place. Everyone knew everyone. Everyone helped. A doggo was 10 years old when her mother died. She cried for a long time, but she was a strong child. She had her mother's face, the same wide eyes, the same smile that made old men and women stop and say, she will be a great woman one day." She also had her mother's voice. When a doggo sang, even the birds in the mango trees would stop to listen. By the time a doggo was 13, she was doing most of the cooking herself. She swept the compound. She fetched water from the stream early every morning before the sun came up. She plaited the hair of the younger girls in the village for a few coins. She did not complain. She did not ask for things she knew her father could not give. She was that kind of child. But the house was quiet in a way that bothered Abena, not the peaceful kind of quiet, the kind that sits heavy on your chest at night when you lie down alone. He missed laughter. He missed the sound of a woman moving around the kitchen in the morning. He missed having someone to talk to when the work was done. So he decided to marry again. He did not rush. He asked around carefully. He spoke to the elders. He prayed. And then one afternoon at the market he saw Zinka. Zinka was from a village called Aguda, about 4 hours away on foot. She was tall, with smooth skin and a loud, easy laugh. She was a widow herself, no children. When Abena spoke to her, she listened carefully. She nodded at the right moments. She asked about a doggo and smiled when Abena described the girls singing. "I have always wanted a daughter," she said, and the way she said it made Abena feel like the weight on his chest was finally lifting. They courted for 3 months. Every time Zinka visited the house, she brought something. Akara, garden eggs, a small bag of crayfish. She sat with a doggo and braided her hair. She told the girl funny stories that made her laugh until her stomach hurt. A doggo liked her. She told her father so. "She is nice, Papa," a doggo said one evening. "You think so?" Abena asked. "Yes, she makes the house feel different." "Different how?" A doggo thought about it, like there is more air inside it. Abena laughed at that. He married Zinka 2 months later. The whole village came. There was music and food and dancing until the moon was high in the sky. A doggo danced too, and when she sang a song for the celebration, the crowd went completely silent to listen. Even Zinka clapped and called out, "That is my daughter, you hear her voice." For the first 4 weeks everything was fine. Zinka cooked. She cleaned. She spoke kindly to a doggo. She called the girl my daughter in front of other women, and they smiled and said what a blessing it was. But something was happening underneath all of that, quiet and slow. The way water finds cracks in a wall before the wall even knows it is broken. Zinka began to notice things that made her uncomfortable. She noticed how the village women praised a doggo constantly. She noticed how old Mama Ekin at the market always called the girl the beautiful one. She noticed how visitors would come to the house, and their eyes would find a doggo first, always first, before finding Zinka. She noticed that when a doggo sang in the evenings, the neighbors would stop whatever they were doing and come to stand near the fence just to hear. And she noticed how Abena looked at his daughter, not in any strange way, just the way a man looks at something he is proud of, something precious, something he would protect at all costs. That look disturbed Zinka more than anything else, because Zinka had decided, quietly and without telling anyone, that she wanted to be the most important person in this house, the most praised, the most loved, and a 13-year-old girl with a voice like a bird and a face like her dead mother was standing in the way of that. The change happened on a Tuesday morning. Abena had been called to a city far away for a business matter. A man he traded with had sent word that there was a problem with a large order of palm oil. Abena needed to go and sort it out himself. He expected to be gone for about 12 days. The morning he left, he sat a doggo down outside the house while Zinka packed his bag inside. "You will be good," he said. It was not a question. "Yes, Papa." "You will help your mother in the house." Adolgo hesitated for just 1 second, too small for Abena to notice. "Yes, Papa." "If anything troubles you, go and see Mama Eki next door. She will help." "Yes, Papa." He held her face in both his hands and looked at her for a long moment. "Your mother is watching over you," he said softly. "She is always watching." Adolgo's eyes filled with water. "I know, Papa." He kissed her forehead, picked up his bag, and walked down the red dirt road until she could not see him anymore. She stood there watching the empty road for a long time after he was gone. Then she heard Zinka's voice from inside the house. "Adolgo, come and wash these pots." The voice was different. Even from outside, with the walls between them, Adolgo could hear it. The softness was completely gone. What was left was something else entirely. She went inside. Zinka was standing in the middle of the kitchen with her arms folded. She was not looking at Adolgo with warmth anymore. She was looking at the girl the way you look at a dog that has walked into your clean room. "What are you standing there for? The pots. Wash them. Then sweep the whole compound. Then go to the stream and come back with 4 full pots of water before noon." Adolgo blinked. "Good morning, Mama." "Don't good morning me. Work. Your father is not here to watch you be lazy." The words hit Adolgo like a slap. She had never been called lazy in her life. She opened her mouth, closed it, and then turned to the pots without saying anything else. That was how it began. By the 3rd day, it was clear that this was not a bad mood. This was a decision. Zinka had made a decision about who Adolgo was going to be in this house from now on, and that decision had nothing to do with the word daughter. Adolgo was no longer allowed to eat at the table. She ate on the floor near the back door, whatever was left after Zinka had finished. If there was nothing left, there was nothing. Adolgo went to bed hungry 3 times that first week and said nothing about it. Her sleeping mat was moved from her small room to the kitchen floor. Zinka gave no explanation. She simply dragged the mat out one evening and pointed at it. "You sleep here from now on. That room is for storage." "But that is my room." "Did I ask for your opinion?" Adolgo lay on the kitchen floor that night listening to the sounds of the house. A lizard moved along the wall. Outside, someone was playing a flute somewhere far away. She pressed her hand flat against the cold ground and tried to remember what her mother's voice sounded like. From that day on, Zinka used Adolgo's room to store her things. Boxes, old bags, cloth she had bought at the market. The room that had been Adolgo's since she was a baby slowly disappeared under Zinka's belongings. Adolgo was not allowed inside it. The work got worse every day. Wake up before the sun, sweep the compound, fetch water from the stream, cook the morning food, wash the pots, pound yam in the afternoon, cook again in the evening, wash everything, sleep on the floor. Adolgo's hands began to crack from the water and the work. Her feet became calloused from the long road to the stream and back. She lost weight because she was not eating enough. The girls she used to play with in the evening stopped seeing her because she was never free. One afternoon, about 5 days after Abena left, Adolgo was at the stream when her friend Ngozi ran up beside her. "Adolgo, we are going to pick Udara fruit behind Baba Chukwu's farm. Come." Adolgo looked at the empty pots beside her. She still had 3 left to fill. "I cannot." "Why? Your father is not even here." "I have to finish the water." Ngozi looked at the pots and then looked at her friend's face. Something in Adago's eyes made Ngozi go quiet. "Is everything okay in your house?" she asked carefully. Adaga smiled. It did not reach her eyes. "Everything is fine." She went home with the water and said nothing. But old Mama Akun, who lived next door, was watching. Mama Akun was 70 years old and had seen everything a village could show a person. She saw Adaga carrying pots that were too heavy for her thin arms. She saw the girl eating from a bowl on the ground near the back of the house. She saw the dark circles under Adaga's eyes that had not been there before Abana left. One morning, Mama Akun called Adaga over to the fence when Zunka was inside the house. "Come here, child." Adaga came close. "How are you sleeping?" "Fine, Mama Akun." The old woman looked at her carefully. "Your father said I should watch over you." Adaga said nothing. "Is that woman treating you well?" Adaga glanced toward the house. "She is fine, I should go back." Mama Akun grabbed the girl's wrist gently before she could turn away. "Adaga, your father will come back. Whatever is happening in that house right now, it will not be forever. You hear me?" Adaga nodded and pulled away gently. She went back inside. Mama Akun stood at the fence and watched her go, her old eyes troubled and full of things she could not yet prove. Inside the house, Zunka's plans were growing. She was not only cruel for the sake of being cruel. She was working toward something specific. She wanted Adaga gone, not just pushed to the side. Gone, out of the house, out of the village, out of Abana's life completely. Because as long as the girl was there, she would always be between Zunka and everything Zunka wanted. She thought carefully about how to make it happen. Simple complaints would not work. Abana loved his daughter deeply. She needed something that would make him feel not just disappointed in his daughter, but truly, completely betrayed. Something so clear that he would have no choice but to act. She thought about it for days, and then on the 9th day after Abana left, it came to her. She went to her wooden box under the bed and took out the necklace. It was a gold necklace with a pendant shaped like a crescent moon. It had belonged to Zunka's own mother, and it was worth a great deal of money. Everyone in Yumyaza who had attended the wedding had seen Zunka wearing it that day. Its value and whose it was could not be questioned by anyone. She sat on the bed and held it in both hands, thinking. Then she stood up and walked to Adaga's old room, the one she had taken over for storage 9 days ago. She pushed aside one of her boxes near the corner and crouched down beside Adaga's old mattress, which was still leaning against the far wall where she had left it. The mattress had a small opening along one seam, a place where the old stitching had come loose. Zunka pushed the necklace through that opening and worked it deep into the stuffing inside, far enough that it would not fall out on its own, but shallow enough that, when someone split the seam open and reached in, they would find it immediately. She smoothed the mattress flat against the wall. She stood up and looked at the room. Everything looked exactly as it had before. She walked back to her own room and sat down on her bed. Her plan was this. When Abana returned, she would tell him with great pain and great reluctance that her precious necklace had gone missing. She would say she had searched everywhere in the house. She would say that in desperation she had even gone into Adaga's old room, thinking maybe the girl had gone in there to hide something, and that she had found the necklace hidden deep inside the mattress seam. She would not touch it. She would leave it there and let Abana go in and find it with his own hands. His own hands. His own eyes. That was the most important part. A man who finds something himself does not easily doubt what he found. It was a clean, simple plan. She was satisfied. What Zunka did not stop to think about, not even once, was this. Adaga had not set foot inside that room since the Tuesday evening Zunka had dragged her mat to the kitchen floor and told her the room was for storage. That was 9 days ago. Adaga had no reason to go in there. She was not allowed. The room was full of Zunka's things. Adaga had been sleeping on the kitchen floor, fetching water, cooking, washing, going from kitchen to compound to stream and back again every single day, never once stepping through that doorway. Zunka was so focused on making the hiding place convincing that she never once asked herself the most basic question: when did this child last have any access to that room? Abana came home on a Thursday evening, 2 days earlier than expected. The business in the city had resolved faster than he thought. He was tired and happy to be home. He carried small gifts in his bag, a piece of fabric for Zunka and a tin of biscuits for Udoga. He walked into the compound, calling their names. Zunka came out of the house first. Her eyes were already red. Her face was the face of a woman carrying something painful that she had been holding for too long. Abana stopped walking. "What is it? What happened?" "Oh, Abana." She pressed her hand to her mouth and looked away like she was ashamed of what she had to say. "I have been carrying this for 2 days waiting for you to come home. I kept telling myself I must have misplaced it. I searched and searched." "What are you talking about? What is missing?" "My mother's necklace." Her voice broke. "I noticed it was gone from my box 3 days ago. I turned this house upside down. I looked in every corner, and then yesterday I thought, let me check Udoga's old room. I don't know what made me go in there. Something just told me." She stopped and swallowed. "Abana, I found it. It was hidden inside her old mattress, pushed into the seam where the stitching is open. I left it there. I did not take it out. I did not say one word to her. I waited for you to come home and see it yourself." The compound went very still. "That is not possible," Abana said. "I know that is what you want to say. It is what I wanted to believe. But it is there right now in that mattress in that room. Go and look. Open the seam yourself. You will find it." Abana set his bag down on the ground slowly. He walked into the house. He passed the kitchen, past the main room, and pushed open the door to what used to be Udoga's room. It was crowded with Zunka's boxes and folded cloth and bags pushed into every corner. In the far corner, Udoga's old mattress leaned against the wall. He crouched down. He ran his fingers along the seam until he found the opening. He pushed his hand inside. He felt something hard and cold. He pulled it out carefully. The gold necklace lay in his palm. The crescent moon pendant caught the light from the small window. He stayed crouching there for a long moment, looking at it. Then he stood and walked back to the main room. "Udoga." Udoga came out of the kitchen drying her hands on a cloth. Her face lit up completely when she saw him. "Papa." She moved toward him, and then stopped when she saw his face and the thing lying in his open hand. She stared at the necklace. The color left her face. "Where did you find that?" "In your room," he said. "Inside your mattress." There was a silence, and then Udoga did something Zunka did not expect. She did not cry. She did not beg. She looked at the necklace in her father's hand, and then she turned and looked at the open door of her old room with Zunka's boxes stacked inside it. And when she turned back, her voice was completely calm. "Papa," she said, "what room did you just come out of?" "Your room." "And when did I last sleep in that room?" Abana's mouth opened, then it closed. Zunka had followed Abana inside. She was standing near the doorway with her arms folded loosely, her face arranged into something sad and reluctant. But at those two questions, something shifted behind her eyes. "When did I last sleep in that room, Papa?" Udoga said again, still calm. "Ask yourself, think about it. When did she move me out? Was it not the same Tuesday you left? She moved my mat to the kitchen floor that very first evening. She told me the room was for storage. I have not gone inside that room since that night. I have been sleeping in the kitchen, on the floor, for 12 days. She paused and let the words settle. "Papa, I have not had any reason to go into that room. I have not been allowed in that room. The mattress in there is not even mine anymore. It is surrounded by her things. So how did I hide something inside a mattress in a room I have not entered in 12 days? The room was very quiet. Abana turned slowly to look at Zunka. Zunka opened her mouth. "She could have gone in when I was not watching. I cannot stand over her every moment of the Mama Akun. The name came from Udaga, quiet and certain. Ask Mama Akun, Papa. She told me herself she has been watching this house since you left. She saw where I slept. She saw everything. If I had gone into that room even once, she would know. Abena walked to the door and called across the compound toward the fence. Mama Ekin. A pause, then the old woman's voice came from next door. I am here. Come, please. The gate creaked. Mama Ekin came into the compound pulling her wrapper clothes around her shoulders. Her eyes moved across all three of them in one sweep, reading everything. Mama Ekin, Abena said, where has my daughter been sleeping since I left? On the kitchen floor, the old woman said, without any hesitation at all. From the very first week, I saw her myself coming out through the kitchen door every morning. Her mat is in there. I asked her about it once. She told me nothing was wrong. She looked at a doggo for a moment. But I knew. Has she gone into her old room at any point? The room next to the kitchen. Mama Ekin looked at the doorway of that room and shook her head firmly. That room has been full of that woman's things since the second day you left. Your daughter has been in the kitchen, the compound, and the stream. That is all. I have not seen her go near that room once. The compound was absolutely still. Abena turned to face Zinka. The performance was over. Zinka could see it in his face. The sadness she had arranged on her own face began to slip. What came up from underneath it was something defensive and cornered, the face of someone who has run out of road. She is lying for the child, Zinka said, pointing at Mama Ekin. They have always been close. She would say anything to. Zinka, Abena's voice came out very low, not a shout, something worse, something final. You moved my daughter out of her room. You sent her to the kitchen floor. And then you walked into that same room that you had locked her out of and you hid your necklace in her mattress. And you waited for me to come home and find it myself so I would be certain. Zinka said nothing. You used the cruelty you had already done to her to try and finish the job. You took her room away so she could not get back in. And then you hid something in a room only you had access to and pointed at her. He shook his head slowly. The one place you thought was perfect was the one place that proved she could not have done it. A long silence. Then Zinka straightened up. The softness was entirely gone from her voice. And what if I did? You want to know why? Because that girl has made my life in this house impossible from the beginning. Every single day it is a doggo's name, a doggo's voice, a doggo's face. I am your wife. I am the one who should matter most in this house. But it does not matter what I do because she is always there between us, with her dead mother's face and her dead mother's songs, and the whole village treating her like she is something precious and treating me like I am nothing. The words poured out and then stopped. She was breathing hard. Nobody spoke for a moment. Then a doggo said quietly, I never made you feel like nothing. I tried to accept you from the first day. I told my father you were nice. I said you made the house feel like it had more air in it. I wanted you to be my mother. She paused. I am sorry that was not enough for you. The words were so plain and so genuine that they took all the air out of the room. Even Mama Ekin looked at the girl and was quiet. Zinka opened her mouth. Nothing came out. Pack your things, Abena said. Abena, please let us. Tonight. Where will I go? It is all ready. That is not my concern. Zinka looked at him for a long time. She looked at a doggo. She looked at Mama Ekin. There was no ally in the room. There was no door to walk through except the one behind her. She turned and went a pack. She took a long time. She moved through the house slowly, folding things she did not need to fold, opening and closing her wooden box. Abena sat in the main room and waited without moving. Mama Ekin stayed in the compound for a while and then quietly went back to her own house. When Zinka came to the front door with her bag, her face was closed and hard. She looked at Abena one last time. You will regret this, she said. Maybe, he replied, But not tonight. She walked across the compound. The gate opened. The gate closed. Her footsteps faded down the road and were swallowed by the dark. Abena sat in the silence for a while. Then he got up and went to the kitchen where a doggo was sitting on the floor with her back against the wall and her knees pulled to her chest. He sat down on the low stool near the door so they were almost at the same level. "Why did you not tell me?" he asked. She was quiet for a moment. "When you left, you were happy, really happy. The happiest I had seen you since Mama died. I did not want to be the one to take that from you." Abena pressed his hands over his face and held them there. "I should have seen it," he said from behind his hands. "You were not here. I should have looked harder before I left." She did not argue. She never argued unnecessarily. That was something she had learned from Kioma. After a while Abena stood up. "Your room," he said. "I am clearing it now." "Papa, it is late." "Now." He went in and moved Zinka's boxes out one by one, carrying them to the far side of the main room. He pulled out the bags and the folded cloth and the odds and ends jammed into the corners until the room was empty. Then he came back to the kitchen and picked up the thin mat that a doggo had been sleeping on for 12 nights and carried it into her room and laid it flat on the floor. "We will buy a new mattress," he said. "That one is finished." A doggo stood in the doorway looking at her empty room. Plain walls, bare floor, the small window with the moonlight coming through it, but it was hers again. "Thank you, Papa." He nodded. He was not a man who could say sorry in long speeches, but she understood what the clearing of that room meant, what doing it at night, tired and fresh from a long journey, meant. She had always been able to read him. "Sleep," he said. "Good night, Papa." He went to his room. He lay down and stared at the ceiling. He thought about the necklace. He thought about Zinka's plan and how nearly it had worked. He had found the necklace with his own hands. He had believed it for those few minutes completely. And it was only a doggo's calm voice, one simple question placed at exactly the right moment, that had unwound the whole thing. "When did I last sleep in that room?" He thought about Kioma, about her voice. "Abena, slow down, look properly. The answer is right in front of you." He closed his eyes. In her room, a doggo lay on her mat and looked at the ceiling. Her hands still ached. Her feet were still rough. She was still thin from 12 days of not enough food. None of that had changed yet. But the floor beneath her was her floor. The walls were her walls. Her room smelled like her childhood and something older, something she could not name but had always known was her mother's presence in the house, in the corners and the air, and the particular way the moonlight came through that small window at night. And through the wall, she could hear her father breathing. That was enough for tonight. She closed her eyes, and for the first time in 12 days, she slept all the way through until morning. The next day, Mama Ekin came to the fence early. Abena was outside building a small fire in the cool morning air. "She is gone?" Mama Ekin asked. "She is gone." The old woman nodded. She stood quietly for a moment. "I should have sent word to you when it started," she said. "I saw everything. I was waiting for the child to ask me to speak. She never did." "She was protecting me," Abena said. "I know." Mama Ekin pulled her wrapper tighter. "A child that age should not have to carry that kind of weight. It is too much." "I know. You did not see the signs before you married her." Abena thought about it honestly. "I saw what I wanted to see. She was good with a doggo when I was watching. She was kind and warm. I thought I had chosen carefully." "Anybody can be kind for 3 months," Mama Ekin said. "The real person only comes out when the door is closed and no one is looking." She fixed him with her direct, old eyes. "Next time, do not leave the house before the ground has settled. Stay long enough to see who she really is when there is nothing to perform for." "Yes, Mama," he said. She went back inside. Abena stared at the small fire for a long time after she left. The days that followed were slow and healing. He stayed home. He cooked and made sure there was always enough food. He noticed how a doggo ate fast at first, like someone who was not yet certain the hunger was over. He noticed how she checked each morning that her mat was still in her room. He noticed how she flinched at sudden raised voices, even when they had nothing to do with her. He saw all of it. He did not comment on any of it directly, but he stayed calm and he stayed close and he made sure, every single day, that she could feel the difference between before and now. The story moved through the village the way real stories do, fast and wide. By the end of the first week, everyone knew the shape of it: the wicked stepmother, the framed child, the room the girl had not entered in 12 days, the necklace hidden in the wrong place by a woman who forgot the most important thing about the trap she was setting. People talked about that last part the most. How Zunka had been so focused on the hiding that she forgot to think about access. How the cruelty she had used against Udaga, taking her room, locking her out of it, had become the very thing that destroyed her own plan. The old women especially shook their heads and said what they always said when wickedness collapsed under its own weight. Evil always trips on its own feet. Months passed. The mango trees flowered and fruited. The harmattan came and went. The rains came back and washed everything clean. Udaga grew, not just in height but in the way a tree grows after a long dry season, stronger in the root, wider in the reach. She started singing at the evening gatherings again. The village women sat under the big neem tree near the market square on certain evenings, and the younger girls came to listen. Udaga had not gone to those gatherings since before Zunka arrived. But one evening, about 2 months after Zunka left, she appeared quietly at the edge and sat down. Old Mama Chudama saw her first. "Udaga, come and sit here, my daughter." She made space beside her. Udaga sat. The singing started. After a while Mama Chudama nudged her gently. "Give us something." Udaga hesitated. Then she began. It was not a sad song. It was a river song, an old one about how water always finds its way home no matter how many rocks stand in its path. When she finished, nobody spoke for a moment. Then Mama Chudama said softly, "Your mother is in that voice, every single note." Udaga smiled. Her eyes were bright, but she did not cry. "She would be proud," said another woman. "She is proud," said Mama Ukun from her spot near the back. "She has always been proud." Sitting there under the neem tree with the fireflies drifting and the old women nodding and her song still hanging in the warm night air, Udaga felt something settle inside her. The way a pot that has been rattling on the fire finally finds its balance. The way a river that has gone underground for a while surfaces again, quietly, into the open. She was home. She had always been home. She had just needed to find her way back to the surface. And at the edge of the gathering, leaning against the compound wall where Udaga could not see him, Abana stood and listened to the end of the song. He had followed her at a distance, not to watch over her but just to hear, just once more. He stood there until the last note faded into the night air. Then he walked home alone and sat outside in the dark and thought about Kpama and about their daughter and about how much of one lived inside the other and how nothing, not cruelty or lies or a woman with practiced tears and a hidden necklace, had been able to touch that. It had bent. It had been pressed down very low, but it had not broken. It had never broken. That is the nature of the truth. You can hide it in a seam. You can close a door in front of it. You can try to bury it under someone else's story, but it waits, patient and unhurried the way only the truth can afford to be. And when the right moment comes, it asks one simple question. And everything falls.